Hello, I'm Camilla Carr. On today's For Your Health program, we're talking about nutrition, obesity prevention, and the importance of physical activity. According to the White House Task Force on Obesity, 1 in 3 children in this country are overweight or obese, and the numbers are even higher in African American and Hispanic communities, where nearly 40% are overweight or obese. Joining us today to discuss this major health crisis is Dr. Yvette Rooks, Vice Chair and Program Director in the Department of Family and Community Medicine at the University of Maryland School of Medicine, and she's also the team physician for the Maryland Terrapins at the University of Maryland, College Park. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Before we start our discussion, could you give us an idea of how did you get into this field? And you're doing two fields, family medicine and sports medicine.
Yes. Originally from New York and grew up in a community similar to Baltimore and the surrounding counties. And I enjoyed going to the doctor. I was always intuitive. I like getting needles. I liked watching blood draws, and I always had a lot of questions about, how did you listen to my chest and here I want to know I had a cold. And I really liked the interaction. My doctor really talked to me as a growing teenager and would always excuse my mom from the room so I could have a one-on-one with him and happen to be a male. And so I was always interested in that part of it. Then I was a volunteer. To keep me out of trouble, my parents had me volunteer at the local hospital. And that experience really opened my eyes to not just the doctoring, but the whole aspect of patient care and taking care of people and looking at people coming into the ER and how they left. Then I had an awakening. When I was 16 years old and I was a senior in high school, my father died of a massive heart attack. He was 52 years old at that time. And it was a preventable disease. He smoked. He was African American, and he was overweight. He was actually a former Baltimore Colt, used to play football here in the city of Baltimore. And from that point on, I went on a mission that I didn't want to see other people die from things that we could prevent here in America, in a country that has everything at its fingertips. So I went on to go to school, and I played a sport. And
what sport?
I played as a volleyball player. And I went on to play a sport and became more interested in not just the taking care of people, but the sociology of dealing with people and the environment of what they came from. And I thought that my biggest impact would be in medicine, so I decided to be a biology major and went on to medical school in New York. And although I wasn't exposed to family medicine at my medical school, I chose family medicine and then came here to Maryland as my residency and my fellowship in sports medicine, and have been at the university from the beginning of my career and still here. The interest in sports medicine came because I was always interested in sports, like sports. Actually, I was an overweight kid growing up, and the Boys and Girls Club.
So was I.
And the Boys and Girls Club introduced me to just being outside and playing. We didn't have all the organized sports that we have now. But through that, I was able to play. I got a scholarship, was able to play volleyball in college, and learned that women were treated differently in athletics than men were. And so I said, I want to do something about that. Whenever I was a cause, I always want to do something about it. So I took up an interest of not just sports medicine, but wellness. And through that, I've done a lot with females and wellness, and my interest in pediatric obesity comes out of that. So I have a combination of family medicine and sports medicine, but it's really a wellness interest that I have.
There was a study of obesity among Baltimore school children. How did they stack up?
Not well. But it's multifactorial, and I don't want to pick on just Baltimore. It is a rural issue, and it's an inner city issue.
Interesting, because people think it's primarily an inner city issue.
Right, there are food deserts. And we say desert, that means nothing. We're here in the inner city, there are buildings, but there are food deserts in certain populations of America. And I mean by food desert is a place where a family cannot go and get fresh fruits and vegetables or have choices for lean cuts of meats or have options. Cost of food is being elevated, and when you're on a fixed income, you're going to buy bulk food, which is typically not healthy, to feed your family because you want your family to feel full and to be able to carry on. So we have the social dynamic of having these food deserts for people, and then not knowing what is a calorie. How much should I eat? What does this food label mean? Seasoning, how can we naturally season our food? There's some cultural dynamics too, so I think all that plays into really affecting our rural communities, but also our inner city communities as much.
As you're talking about this, I'm thinking that how much of this has to do with lifestyle changes. Compared to the 1970s, you had kids were actually playing outside. According to some stats that I saw, they were eating maybe one snack a day, and now children may eat 5 snacks a day.
That's the whole thing around it. It's many things. There's not free space, safe space for kids to go outside and play these days. They're not playgrounds as much, or supervision on the playground. So you're right. We have computers, we have games, we have people inside more. So our kids are not outside. We have TV and we have computers. And so there's more interaction there. We can also link obesity with the hours of TV being watched. TV being watched at dinner time. When I was growing up, there wasn't a TV in our kitchen. We talked across the table. Actually, my parents talked and the kids listened, but we were there. But there was conversation about how was your day. We don't eat meals as families anymore, and the TV's on, so we're distracted. And if you're watching TV while you're eating, you'll eat more. All the commercials that are there, you're not focusing on. Also, what has happened is our plate size has gone from a 7-inch plate to a 12-inch plate. So now we're putting more food on a plate and consuming that, and our dessert, our 7-inch plate, which used to be our dinner plate, is now our dessert plate. So we have our bigger plate. We all go to restaurants, and they bring us food out on platters now, and we eat it all because we paid for it. So we're consuming more. We have more fast foods, more options. Working parents are grabbing meals and bringing it home to feed our families. And so it's multifactorial.
Well, what about schools and after-school programs?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of influence do they have on this obesity issue?
I think schools can have a great influence. Right now we're trying to educate our kids. We have the 3 basics. They have to read, they have to pass these tests to advance in school and education. But I think it's a great opportunity for program activities to get in and talk about nutrition, to have kids learn about reading a food label, learning about portion size. So when they go home and they open their refrigerator, or when they go to the supermarket and shop with their parents, they can be educating their parents. They can say, Mom, look at this food label. We can get calcium. We can have this nutrient-rich food, milk, peanut butter, versus these snacks.
They're not doing that now in the schools?
There really aren't structured curriculums. There's health, but health teaches about the human body, but not so much nutrition. And then we look at cutbacks. When we have cutbacks in the educational system, what gets cut? Physical activity and the arts. And then not much gets replaced back in. There are organizations, though, that are being created around the country that are offering services to come into schools to participate and develop programs. One of the programs at our own office is, I have a wonderful group of residents that we train in family medicine, and my intern group has formed this program called BMI. And we may think it stands for BMI as our measurement, but it's Better My Identity. And we're working with 5th graders, and we're teaching them Nutrition 101. What is a food group? Basic stuff. What is a calorie? How many calories do you need? How to read a food level? Serving size. So we're educating them and providing them healthy meals, like the box lunches you have today, healthy meals to go home. And the feedback we're getting is awesome. I have parents stopping me saying, oh, we can't have that in our house anymore, because Benjamin says, no, Mom, we have to have this.
That's great.
No more microwave popcorn. Let's get an air popcorn machine. So we're making small incremental steps that will help these children as they become adults.
As you say, microwave popcorn, I'm thinking I brought some in my briefcase.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I won't use it, I promise.
Well, you know what? And again, anything in moderation. I believe in moderation. I'm not a fan of fad diets or cutting things out completely, because our body's meant to have all these things to be healthy. But we need to learn moderation. So people say, don't drink soda, don't have sugar. You need sugar.
But how do you teach moderation? Can you teach that?
You can change behavior. A lot of people come into our office now wanting a quick fix. They didn't become 400 pounds overnight. And so we have to teach them that gastric bypass surgery isn't always the way to go. But changing behavior, as you know, is very, very difficult. So you have to relearn. It's education, and it's key. It's key for me, the doctor-patient relationship, working with nutritionists, but it's key to change the behavior, and I think you can.
Are there any programs out there to educate parents? We've talked about what some of the schools or what you're doing, but are there any programs where parents can go and they can learn about what good nutrition is?
The internet is a wonderful resource if used appropriately. And there are great things that the Center of Disease Control has on its website. The First Lady has a great website with Let's Move to register there. There are programs that small communities are doing, families are doing, schools are doing, so you can get ideas. My Plate is the new launch. They've changed the food pyramid to My Plate so it can fit what you're having at your meal. I think that's a great opportunity to go in and click on the different portions of the plate to learn a good dietary. So I think there are many things on the resources that parents can get a hold to. It's just taking time to do that if you have internet capability.
Right.
And that's where the schools and community centers can come into play. And programming is that you may not be able to get to the internet, but ask your doctor or ask the school administrator, can we get some materials in the schools?
Well, we need to take a break right now, but we're going to continue this discussion when we come back. Stay with us.
Hi, Mom. Hi, sweetie.
How's it going, buddy?
I'm bored. I think I'll ride my bike.
It may never be this easy to help your kids find balance, but you have more power than you know. The We Can Parents Handbook and website can help you maximize that power. You'll learn how to help kids choose healthier foods and how to make it fun for them to get active. Who can help kids maintain a healthy weight?
We can.
Visit the We Can website for a free Parents Handbook plus tips, tools, and resources. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
This is Mike. Mike is going to breakfast before he starts his day. What he doesn't realize is that Jim, his waiter, helped save his life. You see, Mike is being treated for heart disease. 10 years ago, Jim volunteered to participate in a clinical study researching a new treatment for heart disease. It was successful, and the new treatment was made available to everyone, including Mike. Like millions of other medical heroes, Jim's participation in clinical research was a gift to Mike and all people who might benefit from this new medication around the world. Just like Jim, medical heroes can be found in everyday places. To learn more about clinical research, visit CISCRIP, a nonprofit organization at medhero.org, or call 1-877-MED-HERO.
All right, Baltimore, listen up. It's getting real. A lot of people are dying around us at the hands of HIV/AIDS because they're not staying protected and they're not getting tested. And take it from me, personally, it's nothing wrong with being abstinent. It's not corny. You won't get teased for it. And trust me, at the end of the day, you're doing something better for yourself than you ever will. So don't get trapped by ignorance because you want to do something to make yourself feel good. Spread the word and not the disease, because AIDS is no joke.
Welcome back to For Your Health. Our guest today is Dr. Yvette Rooks, Vice Chair and Program Director in the Department of Family and Community Medicine at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. Yvette, I want to go back. Before we took the break, we were talking about proper nutrition, and I do want to continue that discussion. Sure. But first, I'd like to go back to the issue of obesity. What are the health implications for children?
Well, with obesity and more of our children becoming obese, we're seeing adult onset diseases occur at a much earlier age, to the point where we worry about lifespan or longevity for these children in this day and age. One of the main concerns is type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes has been an adult onset disease that we see in people who are overweight, usually over the age of 40. We're starting to see that in our adolescent population. Actually, the incidence of type 2 diabetes has risen so great, we're trying to get a hold on it, and that is directly related to obesity. We now have kids from 11 to 16 weighing over 200 pounds.
11?
11 to 16 weighing over 200 pounds, it is an epidemic. It's a crisis. Along with that is an 11-year-old who weighs that much can't get around well enough. Problems with their knees, their ankles, asthma exacerbations, heart disease. We start to develop plaques in our arteries at a very young age, even with a healthy diet. And it's actually increased when you have an unhealthy diet or weigh more. Then we get to the social aspects of being in school, bullying, dealing with the issue of being ostracized because of your size or not having friends. So then we have psychiatric illnesses that are being more presented early. But the one that gets the most press these days is the type 2 diabetes, which is directly related to obesity as a child.
And type 2 diabetes, now is that a disease where you have to have insulin shots, or do you take medicine, or is it a combination of
both?
therapy?
Type 1 diabetes is usually juvenile diabetes, and one is diagnosed with that at a very early age. Type 2 is usually acquired at an older age, and it can be treated with medicines. Typically, we try to treat it with diet and first and getting the weight off, behavioral changes. But you can use oral medications, and then we're to a point where you may have to use insulin or insulin-like medicine to treat that. I don't want to see us get to that point, because with diabetes comes eye changes, heart disease, kidney problems, even problems with your pancreas. And so it's multifactorial, and we're really worried about the quality of life of these individuals if we don't do something about it now.
How do you respond to the comment that in certain communities being overweight is not considered unattractive? People will say, oh, he's just healthy, or she's just healthy, meaning, I mean, they weigh a lot. And I mean, we're talking about a cultural perception here.
Right, and I think it's exactly that. It's a long, misguided cultural perception that being big-boned or thick is not a health crisis, because my family members have been like that. But our environment also dictates that. It's, yes, they look different and we're different shapes, but pounds don't lie. The scale does not tell a lie for anyone. And so although I'm tall, so I may be able to be heavier by scale weight, but when we look at my BMI, my weight is appropriate for my height.
Would you please tell people what BMI stands for and explain that, please?
Body Mass Index. And it's a calculation between your height and your weight that comes out with this number. And the number is what a lot of health plans and insurance companies are going by to dictate if you're at a healthy weight or not. So and they're different for the pediatric population than they are for the adult population. But for instance, you want your BMI to be a number a healthy one between 19 and 25. Over 25 to 30, you're considered overweight, and over 30, you're considered obese. And so it gives us a guide, and it's like when we look at the BMI charts, they're in green, yellow, and red. And red is our alert, like we really have to do something here. But when a person looks at a BMI chart, they can see where they are and where their goals should be. So it's just not pounds, but it's looking at pounds versus your height. You know, you look at athletes on TV, and they may weigh 385 pounds, and their BMI is probably abnormal. But for what they're doing, they need to carry that much weight that the normal non-athlete may not have to. I use myself as an example. I probably can weigh more because I'm taller. So it's proportion. So when you say the perception of why in certain cultural things that it's not a health thing, it is a health thing, but we're just so used to saying that my whole family is big-boned or my whole family is thick, but it's not healthy. And we have to get back into the health inside. We can't see what's going on inside. We just see the outside.
How do you do that?
And that's what the beauty of being a family doc, because you're just not addressing the individual, but you're asking questions about who do you live with, who prepares the meals, who does the food shopping. You try to bring all those people together with a family and talk about how you can make the family healthy. Because if an individual is in the house trying to do it alone with these constant non-reinforcements, you want to make this a family event. And I think that's the beauty of being in family medicine, because we deal with families. Oftentimes at a visit, I'll have a child, a mother, and the grandmother there. So we can talk about this, because they all live together, about how we're going to make this family healthy.
How much is the latchkey children, the latchkey issue, impacting obesity?
Well, it depends on what's in the house. The latchkey kid probably isn't employed going and doing the shopping and putting the food in the house. A lot of this is parental control. Parents do the shopping. And so if a kid is coming home alone and is going to get a snack. Make sure there are healthy snacks in the refrigerator. But if they open the pantry door and there are oodles and noodles and there are potato chips and there are the things that are unhealthy, they're going to eat those things. Kids are going to eat those things. But if we have nutrient-rich foods, we have peanut butter, we have milk, we have apples, we have yogurts, we can change the palate. I love when the parents come in and say, oh, my kid will eat a French fries. Well, is this 3-year-old going to the store and buying the French fries? No, we are. We're guilty of it. And we have to say no. And we have to change our behaviors as well because kids will model after their parents. The research also shows if you have an overweight or obese parent, the likelihood of you being overweight is about 80%.
It's interesting because I have seen that when I've seen an overweight parent, and you're right. Chances are the kids are also overweight as well. So what you're saying is it really has to be a family approach.
It has to be a family approach, and we have to target it early on because as kids start to make their own choices, you want them to make correct choices. And if they start making bad choices when they're young, they'll make bad choices when they get older.
So what do you recommend? I know that I've spoken to some parents, and they have started their 1 or 2-year-old children on yogurt. And now the kids love yogurt. Mm-hmm. So the earlier you start, probably the better the outcome in terms of healthy nutrition.
What we try to do is, breastfeeding for babies, if a mother can breastfeed, is probably the best source of nutrition at a very young age. And then gradually. The problem is there's no specific nutritional guidelines for that 1 to 3-year-old yet. And the ADA, the American Dietetic Association, is working on that. There are new guidelines for 5 to 8-year-old and 8 to 13-year-old. And it really portions around having a variety from all the food groups, but it's portion size. Again, in the old days when we have to have babies and you prop their bottle up on a pillow so they would just drink, they learned to satisfy wants by food because we're all orally motivated. We have to look at satisfying our wants other ways. And again, we can focus on nutrition, but there's also an exercise piece. We have to get our kids more active because we have to consume calories. We need that for energy. We need to have breakfast, we need to keep our blood sugars up, but we also need to exercise to tone our muscles and stuff. So I think it's a good balance of physical fitness and nutrition, so energy in and energy out.
I see a catch-22 here, and that is sometimes there aren't any real safe places for children to play. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the only stores that are available are the ones that do not have fresh produce. And other times, it's a matter of economics. So, it's like, how do you overcome these issues?
I don't have the answer to that today. I think that's the purpose of the Let's Move campaign. I think the First Lady has done a great job of getting the word out there. We have to be creative because you're absolutely right. Safety, space, healthy food, healthy school lunches. Sometimes that's the only meal that some of our kids, there's a new breakfast program that's going around the country where kids are getting breakfast, a healthy breakfast when they come to school.
What does that consist of?
Well, it's one thing just to have a meal, but make it a healthy meal. So we're looking at bagels, we're looking at yogurts like you mentioned, looking at cheeses. We have to worry about the food allergies, though, because lots of kids have food allergies. It is not juice in a muffin, because then we're defeating the purpose. But giving them a healthy breakfast, really looking at our school-based lunches. If it meets all the, I used to have mystery meat when I was growing up. I didn't know what it was.
So did I.
Right. But making sure they're balanced. And some programs, some after-school programs, actually have monies to have dinners brought in. There's a program that I know that, an after-school program that brings dinner in so the kids at least have a warm meal before they go home.
Yvette, what can families do to increase the exercise, or rather the activity, of their children?
One, they can talk about what their goals are for wellness. We talked a lot about the nutrition. I think physical fitness, to me, is key. Getting outside. Our families don't do enough together outside anymore. And we tend to want to get in the car to go 2 blocks or, go around the corner. And family time is bonding time. And if families can take walks together in the neighborhood, if the market is close, they can walk to the market together and make their choices. There are open parks in this area. They can come down to the harbor and enjoy just the open air experience and walk around. There are videos that people can buy, and you can exercise within the home. There are calisthenics. You can work on different muscle groups that you can do. There are free events throughout the city that folks can come and get involved with.
For example?
When there are health fairs, walking around, there are demonstrations of, doing timed events like jumping jacks. sit-ups, things called power jumps, all things that can help burn calories and tone muscle. Again, but it's wanting to and devising a plan. So the recommendations these days are no longer 20 minutes 3 days a week. It's doing something most days of the week for at a minimum of 30 minutes and hopefully 60 minutes for kids. Kids really need 60 minutes of physical activity a day to be up and moving around. It stimulates the brain. It gives them a break from reading, writing, and arithmetic, we used to say. But it actually, we've made a link that good physical activity links to better outcomes in education.
Really?
So having that physical activity to stimulate the brain to do other things is really helpful. So schools are really empowered to put that 60 minutes of recess or 60 minutes of physical activity back into. I know the NFL has partnered with certain groups of people up to play 60, and they have a partnership with schools in trying to get activities, creative activities in the classroom. It doesn't need to be all that structured, but kids just have free space to run around. You have a basketball, dodgeball we used to play, all those kind of things. It's just creativity for the parents, for the physical education teachers, and for families. We are the role models as parents and as adults. So if we're sitting on the couch with the remote in our hands doing this, our kids are going to sit on the couch with the remote in their hands and doing this. But we have to say, put it down and get outside to make the changes with them and show that we're interested. Volunteer as a coach. So you'll be a role model for kids in the community. Be participatory. Get out there and design programs. It's very important. I know that, my life is probably a little bit busier with a young child being involved in sports and stuff, but it reminds me that I want to be healthy to keep up with her. Mm-hmm. And so I get out there while she's at her practice and do my little bit of exercise and continue to do that as well.
But you hear from parents, I don't have the time, particularly with single heads of households.
There's always a little bit of downtime. We've also known that you don't have to do the whole hour at one time.
Okay.
So if you broke it up and did 15 minutes in the morning, like a drill team, and did 15 minutes before dinner time, and maybe 10 minutes long, and put it together, you can still see the same benefit. So it doesn't have to be the whole hour of time. Just like we schedule meetings and schedule to get our hair done and schedule to do this, we can schedule that family time together to be physically fit.
What do you say to people, though, who say, I hate exercising?
Find a new doctor. No, I don't say that to them. I ask them why.
Well, you know how many people tell me that when I try to get them to, join a health club?
Because they look at, I think that's what sometimes the mistake is that does it mean that? Does getting good exercise meaning joining a health club at anywhere from $50 to $150 a month? That means you have to go, or you're paying the fat tax, which means you're paying all this money and you're not going. So what does exercise really mean? Does it mean it has to be formal, that you have to join a class, or do you have to get a trainer, or do you have to go buy the newest tennis shoes? Does that what exercise mean? No, it could be outside a leisurely walk. Get a girlfriend to go through and, do these trails, or do something that you want to target your abs this week and formulate something. Make it fun. I always say do it with a buddy. I'm a bit competitive. So I like to, work out with girlfriends or guy friends because it pushes me to be a little bit better, to be a little bit faster, to do more. It's also good for the brain. Exercise, we have linked with increasing the happy cells in our brain. So people who do something on a regular basis are generally happier people. And they want to improve, and they quit smoking. And they eat right. I mean, if you're going to go and run 10 miles, you're probably not going to go and get the burger this big and chomp it down, or go and light up a cigarette, or do something that is non-healthy. So by reframing it and putting not the expensive tag on exercise, but the fun tag on exercise, it sounds a little bit better and it's more palatable to people.
Now I know why some of my friends are saying they don't like to exercise. I really didn't think of that, and you've given me some guidance. But even there are people out there that say when they say I don't like to exercise, they don't even want to walk somewhere.
They need some work. It's probably you're not going to probably convince them at the first time, but you make it fun, you add some things to it, and you don't formalize it. It could be like, let's go to this outing, and we're going to walk there. Before you know it, they've walked a mile, but they had a great time getting there because the conversation was good. So I try to put it, you can't say no but so many times, and if you put the right things on it and put the right connotations on it, and you want to do it, it's that whole phase of behavioral change. It's not going to happen overnight. I always say there's the pot of gold at every rainbow, and look at it as your rainbow. Make it as colorful as you can.
Well, we have to take another break, but when we come back, Dr. Rooks will answer questions from our audience members. Stay with us. Nice. No. Come on. Oops. Yeah, sure. So.
Moms everywhere are finding ways to keep kids active and healthy. Works every time. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov.
It's one of the many ways to fight osteoarthritis pain. For more information on managing pain, go to fightarthritispain.org.
In a moment, cancer changed our lives forever.
We were told nothing could be done to enjoy these final moments together.
But in that moment, when all seemed lost, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital gave us hope.
Because at this moment, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is saving lives with pioneering research and care. We're changing the way the world treats childhood cancer by sharing our discoveries with doctors and scientists everywhere.
And we'll never have to pay St. Jude for anything, ever.
At this moment, she wants to be in her own bed.
I want to be back at school with my friends. I want to be outside playing.
Please take a moment and join St. Jude in finding cures and saving children. Visit stjude.org.
You know, I never knew how serious this AIDS thing was until it hit close to home. My brother used to be a straight-up player, and I used to want to be just like him. So I found out he was HIV positive. I mean, that thing changed my whole perspective on life completely. And it let me know you gotta resist in order to exist. So get tested and know your status. Spread the word, not the disease, because AIDS is no joke.
Welcome back to For Your Health. We've been talking about nutrition, obesity prevention, and the need for physical activity with Dr. Yvette Rooks from the University of Maryland School of Medicine. Now we're going to give our audience an opportunity to ask questions.
Hello, Ms.
Hi.
Carr and Dr. Rooks.
Hi.
My name is Pamela Hart, and I've been working in the school system for almost 24 years. I was brought up back in the 60s, and what I've noticed is that the food that we eat now, it seems to be, to me, tainted, because when I grew up, a chicken wing looked like a chicken wing, not like almost a turkey leg. And fruit and vegetables taste real, more healthier. Like the fruits we buy in the market right now, they may look healthy and sweet, but when you take them home and you bite into like a nectarine or peach or something, they usually taste a little bitter because they're not sweet. It's like they're not ripe, like there's something added into it to make it grow faster. Grow faster, and like the chicken, it looked like maybe it's something being given to chickens that make it grow real fast. So the chicken wings usually look pretty huge, opposed to the little medium size they used to be when I grew up. Mm-hmm. And even down to the green vegetables and everything, they don't taste as good as they did when I was a child. So my question is, do you believe that there's a possibility that the fruit and vegetables that are fed to our children in the meats, the poultries, are being tainted with things, and that could play a part in our kids becoming obese as well, picking up weight at a massive rate and at younger ages?
Well, I don't think that food is being tainted. Food goes through a regulation that packaged meats are things that you can buy in the store. So I don't think that legally things are being put into food that add to obesity. I think we're eating more. The bottom line is that we're eating a bigger quantity of food. And when we eat more and do less physical activity, you're going to retain weight. But I personally don't believe that anything's being added in terms of like a steroid or anything to food that's doing anything unnatural to the body.
But you hear about hormones being used with some with chickens, also with beef. Could that impact?
Well, I don't think there's a link to that to obesity. Again, it's energies, and it may be where they're trying to have animals and stuff grow faster or be bigger and stronger, but I don't think there's been any association where that has led to human enlargement as consumers, especially with the fruits and vegetables at all. It still comes to energy and how much you're taking in to how much you're expending.
We have another question, sir.
Hello, I'm Joseph Hall. I've been teaching for 6 years, and I have 2 questions.
Sure.
One is, how do you combat the fact that we're an instant gratification society? Not only do we want fast food, we want to drive by and get it. We want to open up a can with not even a can opener. We want to nuke food, like you said, your popcorn. So how do you combat that? The second question is, what position did your father play, and what was his name?
The second question is easier. It was George Rooks, and he played on both the defensive line. He was a running back. And that was in the mid-50s, 1950s. The first question is, you're actually right. As society has gotten faster and quicker and things are moving fast, as you know, members of our audience, they can text, they can twit, right? They can face page. I mean, you could, like the commercials now, that's 20 seconds ago. We want that instant gratification. We're still full now. Eat on the run, eat in the car, eat on the way to the bus. It's about behavior. It's going back to the basics. If we look at sports, what did Larry Bird always say? The basics. And when you play the basics, run the plays correctly, and not be fancy, which is a fast pace, you have a better outcome. We have to get back to chewing our food appropriately, not gulping and chewing in half. That also comes into overeating. Eating at meal times and not starving ourselves the whole day and sitting down and overeating. But it's really planning like we plan to get up, get our clothes ready for school or for work, and get to work. It's planning our meals better.
Speaking of speed, though, I have friends that can eat an entire meal in 10 minutes. How long are you supposed to, let's say, chew? I mean, what is the shortest amount of time to eat dinner or lunch without rushing it?
Well, I don't think there's much a time limit, because you can sit at a table and keep scooping in conversation. I mean, my parents are from the South, where there was a continuous meal all day long. There's always food in Grandma's kitchen. But I think the process is, they say when you're chewing food, I think it's at least 20 times you chew your food before you swallow. But I really believe that we have a sort of a caveman mentality, and where we eat so much because we think the next meal isn't coming. So we eat all our food now. But if we eat all our food now, the premise behind the supersized meals, we eat that, and then we're going to eat again 6 hours later because it's going to be digested. We're going to have the sensation of being hungry. We need to listen to our bodies, and when we're hungry, we should eat, but not overeat. The fashion of having 3 meals a day, square meals a day, is going away. You should have 5 small meals a day. It keeps up your blood glucose, so you have a steady state metabolism, so you don't go into the starvation mode. You pass by the candy machine. I'm just going to have this bag of M&Ms to carry me over till dinner. And then you eat dinner. And then before you go to bed, you have something else. But it's really planning. Yes.
Another question?
To this? Okay. I have 2 questions. One, I wanted to know if you knew of any programs for teenage girls to talk about things like this. And my second question was if you have any suggestions of other things that you think we should be eating instead of things we shouldn't.
You know, you raise a great point, because we tend to target the little ones and then the adults because they come into the office. But there's this lost population of high school. You know, is this boring topic for a high school population to hear about? But I think you're the guys who are most at risk because you have the freedom of choice. This is when you're starting to come into, well, I can choose what I want to wear to school. I can choose this. I go out and I shop for myself. I'm living it. I have a teenage daughter. And so I think this is where the guidance is needed. And you have given me a great idea. And I'm glad that I have one of my interns here with me today as an idea of creating a program for young people like you. And this is the reason why we're here today, because to get ideas from you to share in a partnership, that we can develop something that's going to benefit us with our knowledge to bring to you and see what you want. So this is the start, and we're going to build on this for you.
But with teenagers, as you know, there seems to be some kind of magical attraction to teenagers and junk food. It's like every time you see a teenager, they're eating either some potato chips or pizza or so.
So where is it? Where is that junk food? It's at the movies. It's in the schools and vending machines. It's at concerts. It's at places which appeal to them. But if we stop putting it there, we have to get to the big people who supply all that stuff, the Pepsis, the Cokes, the Lay's and stuff, and get a healthier product. If you put water in these machines and people are thirsty, they'll drink it. But it's the taste and it's the appealing. So we have to get away from just seeing something and change the perception. But you're right. It's at the checkout line, at everything. There's the gum and the candy for little kids, all that kind of stuff. It's an adult move. We have to change big corporations to be healthy, to make that change. And I wanted to get back and finish your question. There's a whole bunch of things, and we just talked about fruits and vegetables actually taste really, really good, and you can put those in snack bags and bring them to school. And instead of putting 50 cents or $1.50 into the vending machine, you can pull out your lunch that you brought from home that's healthier. You probably can eat more of that than what's in that machine and feel better at the end.
Some very good advice. We have another question.
Yes. It's actually just 3 quick points that you could give us that would help out in terms of dealing with the childhood obesity crisis.
Plan meals with your families and with your kids. And when we talk about plan meals, have them be interactive with that. Getting physical activity is huge. And as a family, it's even better. Putting together a wellness package for the family. I want to be well. What changes am I going to make? A parent may say, I'm going to quit smoking. That's going to be my thing. What is going to be your idea? And together, do it together.
What is your advice for single heads of households? Because you know we have a lot of them right now.
It's the same advice I would give anybody. Is you have to decide what's going to be important for you. You have to probably even be more conscious of your health as a single parent or a single head of household because you're the only one. There's no one else to rely on. So making those choices, and actually you can probably make better economical choices by choosing healthier things than the more expensive things, which are more unhealthy because you'll need more of them to feel well. They'll do harm or effects will cost you more in the long run.
Mm-hmm. We have another question.
Yes. What do you think Baltimore City Public Schools could do to better make the lunches more appetizing to our students? Because we have a problem with our kids leaving the building because they always talk about how horrible the lunches are. They say the food doesn't taste good.
Yeah, mass production of food doesn't taste good. It's you have to be careful because you're dealing with allergies with kids. You can't use a lot of seasoning, and for economic reasons, you have to buy things in bulk. It really comes down to finances. One of the things that they did in a school that I was affiliated with back in New York is they surveyed the kids, and they asked them, "What do you want for lunch?" But what we got was French fries, hamburgers, and pizza. And and that's kids' favorites. But when we started giving them other options and had them design, like sometimes when you're in the hospital, you can choose your meals, what you want. We gave them a list of things that they can choose from, but it was all healthy ideas, and they started to create good menus from that. But if you just ask a child or ask a student, you're going to get the same things because that's what's out there. That's what's here is appealing because they're not getting it elsewhere. But if you give them like a menu card and say, circle these things, they become more empowered to make those good choices.
Oh, thank you.
What is the difference, though, in cost? There's this perception out there that when you go for the healthier foods, they're going to cost more.
And I think there is some truth to that. You can probably get a bag of Lay's potato chips that is the serving size is really small, but you think you eat the whole bag. That will cost maybe $1.50. But if you want to get a bag of, say, the peeled carrots, they may be $2.99. And so you do make those choices, and it is difficult. Those are one of the things that we have to deal with. I look at it as the social determinants of health, the accessibility of food and the cost of food. Even in our own city, you can look at a Whole Foods where things are more expensive and in different communities, and you can look at Stop, Stop, and Shave that are in other places. So I don't have that answer, but it is something that I think that we need to recognize for and be cognizant of when we're educating, and make sure that we're not putting down people when they're trying to make those choices.
We have another question.
Hi, Dr. Rooks. You mentioned the food deserts in our city, and I was wondering if you were aware of any programs that were in place to address that issue.
The university itself is working with a couple of supermarkets and a couple of food storage areas to provide accessibility for families in need. I know at Shoppers Food Store at one of our big conventions we had recently was there giving away bags of groceries. So there are programs. You know, I always say as a leader or as a community as a whole is approach your local supermarket, write letters. People are willing to help. We were able to get granola bars for a program from Whole Foods that we just asked. And they like to have partnerships and demonstrations. We have people showing people how to prepare meals on a budget that can be healthy. We just did one at Lexington Market and did a healthy salad for diabetics. Because people say, oh, salad, and it had great things in it, asparagus, cranberries, chicken, or salmon. So a salad just doesn't have to be lettuce. We can make it colorful, beautiful, and tasty.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I guess I still go back to this the cost issue. And here, what's the bottom line here? Is it possible to eat healthy on a budget?
Yes, it is possible. It takes creativity. It takes education to be able to read a food label, to make sure that you're not only getting healthy food inexpensively, but the right foods that you need in your budget. Too much of anything is not unhealthy. You can say milk is a great product, but if you only drink milk, that's not healthy. You can say carrots is a great product, but if you only eat carrots, it's not healthy. But a balance of your food groups, of your protein, of your dairy products, of your carbohydrates. You hear, oh, carbs, they put weight on you. Yes, but they're your source of energy. So you have to balance everything out. In the morning, you know, having breakfast, it's, you know, what is it? You eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a queen, and dinner like a princess. You want to have your biggest meal of the day. Kids, especially students, need that for brain power to come in and to be able to excel in school.
Thank you. And we're going to take another break, and when we come back, we're going to get some final comments from Yvette. Don't go away.
Hello, I'm Dr. Tanya Eggers-Collins from the National Cancer Institute. Did you know that the foods you eat can play a role in your cancer risk? It's true. People whose diets are rich in fruits and vegetables have a lower risk of getting several different types of cancer. They are also less likely to get diabetes, heart disease, and hypertension. The National Dietary Guidelines recommends eating 5 to 9 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Fruits and vegetables contain vitamins, minerals, and fiber that work together to promote good health. Only fruits and vegetables, not pills or supplements, can provide all of these nutrients together. If you're not eating many fruits and vegetables, 5 to 9 may sound like a lot, but it may not be as hard as you think. One serving fits into the palm of your hand, and a salad may contain several servings. Everyone has the power to make healthy food choices. By eating healthier, increasing physical activity, and maintaining a healthy weight, you lower your risk for many chronic diseases, including cancer. Best of all, you'll discover that eating right doesn't always mean giving up the foods that you like. The National Cancer Institute offers a free cookbook called Down Home Healthy Cooking. It has a helpful selection of cooking techniques, healthy food substitutions, plus dozens of recipes. To learn more about how diet may affect your cancer risk and to order the cookbook, visit www.cancer.gov or call 1-800-4CANCER. To learn more about increasing your physical activity, consult the Physical Activity Guidelines for Americans at www.health.gov/PA guidelines. And remember to stay healthy.
Welcome back to For Your Health. My guest is Dr. Yvette Rooks from the University of Maryland School of Medicine. Yvette, we've been talking about obesity, prevention, nutrition, and physical activity. What is the one thing you would like people to take away from this discussion?
take back their health. What one change, and I know we focus on nutrition and physical activity, one change can they make to improve their health? Your health is the one thing that you have most control over. Yes, we have diseases that affect people, but what can you make a difference in an investment in yourself? And then recruit people to want to change and be healthy. Do it person by person, neighbor by neighbor, community by community. There are churches that are getting involved in getting a healthy congregation. We have schools who are having Biggest Loser contests with the teachers. That empowers the students who are there. We have families wanting to be healthy. It is really, really important. To be in America, we should really not still have the #1 leading cause of death to be heart disease, and heart disease is preventable. And so there's a lot of work still to be done. We as adults have to be better role models for our young ones coming up, including this prime age, this high school age, which is so imprintable, and teach them to make healthy choices, because that will help to be healthy adults. We manage money probably better than we manage our health. And we need to be healthy Americans to have longevity. Even in the state of Maryland, the lifetime of a woman in Montgomery County, believe it or not, is about 15 to 20 years longer than the lifetime of a woman in Baltimore City. So we have to look at what is the difference here and how we can improve that. And some of the things that we touched on in our conversation are still in work. The economics of purchasing healthy food, or access. We talked about food deserts. But even when you can go and make in those choices, and why choose the healthier option versus a non-healthier option, and how do you define that? I think education is key. I think education within the schools, education within the household, even the education of physicians. There's very little taught about nutrition and physical activity in medical school. So here's a doctor talking because there's a special interest that I have to get out there. But a lot of times it's not even part of the conversation that comes up. What comes up is, do you exercise? Check off the box. Do you eat 3 meals a day? Check off the box. But that's not education. We need to have a dialogue about that and how we could become healthy. Stopping smoking is a key thing. But also those behavioral things and how do we eat is really, really important.
And on that note, we wrap up this discussion. I want to thank Dr. Yvette Rooks from the University of Maryland School of Medicine. And I would like to thank our studio audience. We hope this program was informative. I'm Camilla Carr, and thank you for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you again on For Your Health.
We want a country where all people are reaching their highest attainable standard of health. But tragically, too few people are reaching that noble goal. And oftentimes, people of racial and ethnic minority backgrounds are not reaching that goal for reasons that we can rectify.
There was a time when no one talked about cancer on the reservations or throughout the American Indian Alaska Native population. But gradually there were people who started to worry that we were seeing more patients, very desperate patients with very bad prognoses, and didn't quite understand what was happening in the community.
Los tratamientos en cáncer y los problemas que los pacientes, especialmente latinos y hispanos, que ellos tienen cuando los están diagnosticando con cáncer, todas las cosas familiares, el seguro, acceso a los hospitales, eso es muy importante para mí.
As a resident, I had a gentleman to come see me. He was 59 years old. He had private insurance, and he came to see me in our ward service clinic. That meant that he waited for about 3 hours to see a resident because someone in his family had told him that they saw me give a talk in the church about prostate cancer. Now, this gentleman had been diagnosed 2 years before with a treatable cancer, but when I saw him, it had already spread to his bones. So the question for me was, why didn't this gentleman get treated? He was educated, he had insurance, so he had quote-unquote access to care. However, he did not receive appropriate care.
There's a wonderful saying that the health of the individual is almost inseparable from the health of the greater community, and the health of every community determines the overall health status of the nation. So the community is the focus here. It's very important. We also know that health is more than what happens in a doctor's office. It also starts where people live, labor, learn, play, and pray. So this is a very aggressive and comprehensive plan. In fact, it represents the greatest federal commitment to eliminating health disparities ever. It also has commitments to strengthening and diversifying the workforce and holding the Department of Health and Human Services accountable for reaching these goals. There are 5 key parts to this strategy. First, to transform healthcare, particularly using the lever of the Affordable Care Act. We know that minorities make up about 1/3 of the nation's population, but about half of those uninsured. So we need to close and, in fact, eliminate that disparity and really improve access and coverage. Second, we want to strengthen and diversify workforce so people can get the culturally competent care they need and deserve. Third, we want to improve population health in a whole range of areas, from cancer to heart disease to HIV and other key areas. Fourth, and critically, we need to improve data collection because the data on disparities has been suboptimal so far. In fact, there are provisions in the Affordable Care Act to improve data collection at a granular level so we can create better strategies for eliminating disparities. And then fifth, the Affordable Care Act creates multiple new offices of minority health and, in fact, elevates the National Center for Minority Health and Health Disparities at NIH to a full-fledged institute. So these are all major commitments, and we're very, very excited about them. There's a very important saying that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. With this new plan, we have now a commitment, a roadmap, and a compass for the future, and we're very proud of that.